The Grand Canyon Railway is one of the coolest experiences at the Grand Canyon, but there are a few things you should know before you go.
We're Matt and Cheryl, and we rode the Grand Canyon Railway last time we visited the Grand Canyon.
Today, we're going to share with you our experience and helpful tips if you're going to ride the Grand Canyon Railway.
The first thing to know is that it's historic. This was built in 1901 to save people the horse and buggy ride from Flagstaff, Arizona. It was 8 to 10 hours to make it to the Grand Canyon. So getting a luxury train to take you out to the Grand Canyon was a real treat because there were no roads for cars to go on at the time and no cars too.
Now, over the years, the automobile replaced the railroad, of course, as the main form of transportation for people. And the national parks really embraced the automobile and made their national parks automobile friendly. So what that meant was that over time, the railway kind of fell out of favor. This was quite a gamble and really a labor of love for these investors. And fortunately, it has paid off. So they brought this back in the 1980s. I think 1989 is when it came back and is a nostalgic experience today.
Yes, in fact, 250,000 people ride this a year, and they really lean into their old time history. Like the employees wear the old time costumes down to the white gloves. It is really cool. So the train ride, it starts in Williams, Arizona, and it's a 63-mile ride to the south rim of the Grand Canyon. It takes around 3 hours to get there.
They will drop you off for about 3 to 4 hours at the south rim so that you can explore, you can eat lunch, you can go to the canyon rim and look at it, you can check out the Grand Canyon Village, and then you're gonna hop back on the train and head back to Williams, again, about a 2 to 3 hour ride all the way back to Williams. So this is kind of an all-day thing.
Something kind of fun to know is that the train normally travels around 30 miles per hour. It's really smooth and really quiet. It can go about 40 miles an hour, but 30 miles is where it feels comfy. And something else fun to know is that there's usually just one train a day that goes. Sometimes in the middle of summer there'll be two, but usually it's just one train, and it's kind of fun to be at the south rim and watch the train come in or leave for the day.
Yeah, the little log depot that it pulls into at the south rim, I believe is like the oldest log depot in the entire country, something like that. And so it's very cool. You get off at the canyon rim there at that log depot and you walk around this historic village. It really is one of the more nostalgic experiences you can get in other on travel, I think.
All right. The next thing to know is that there's actually different classes of carts because, once again, this was originally made for sophisticated travelers that had money back in the day. So there's actually a few different carts you can choose from. We booked 2 different carts so we could have 2 different experiences. So I wanted to talk about the first one which we rode, which was the coach car. Okay, this was not the bottom tier, but it was the second from the bottom tier. And we thought the coach car was really nice. Our seats were padded and comfortable. We were assigned seats, so it wasn't a big free-for-all. And each car, regardless of class, comes with its own dedicated conductor.
Yeah, our conductor, she was wonderful. She was always checking on us, make sure we needed water. She was telling us stories and narration and stuff like that. So she was really good. And the seating, there was enough room for our legs and all that. I thought the seating was just fine. And you're sitting there, you have a window next to you so you can see out. And so that was great. The lowest class, before we move on to the other one that we did, the lowest class is the Pullman class. The biggest difference here is that there's no air conditioning in the Pullman cars. So we would not really recommend that one. But the coach was really good. And so we took that on the way there. On the way back, we rode the Sky Dome car. So this is a double-decker car, and the top of it is the Sky Dome. So there's a window that kind of covers you, and you can look out up top and out to the sides. And so it has pretty cool views. One thing to know is the ceiling was pretty short. So as I was standing in the Sky Dome, I was pretty much touching my head on the top, and I'm 6 foot tall. So that's kind of a short top there. The seats were also a little cramped, and we sat there facing the neighbors next to us. So,
So if like you're traveling as a couple, you're gonna have to make friends with the people across from you. In fact, we met some lady who didn't like the people she was sitting across from. She like fell on her seat because she's like, I could not listen to that guy for 2.5 hours. And she found a different seat.
There are snacks on that car though, so that was kind of nice. You could go to the snack tray anytime you wanted.
Well, and they serve champagne or sparkling cider if you're not a drinker.
Yeah, we're not drinkers, so we got the sparkling cider there, but had the little high class experience. I mentioned it's a double-decker car, so the lower level had some couches and some seats that we could just kind of hang out on. So what was funny is we went down there because when we go on these, we're always trying to do research. We're thinking about, hey, what's everything that there is to do here? And so we went down and there was nobody down there. And so we just hung out there on the couches for a long time. Eventually that couple that got tired of the people talking They came down and we hung out with them for quite a while, but we had our own, we were just sprawled out there on the couch and on the chair and really enjoyed that ride. Actually, probably more than the top.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But what you really liked about it was you can go out to the very back of the train. You get the open air and you can see the tracks going underneath behind you.
Yeah.
And you're getting some really great views and just like that fresh air. It's pretty cool.
In order to get back there, you have to walk through the luxury car, which we did not pay for, but you get to still access it. From the coach, you cannot go access the back of the train, but from the luxury or from the Sky Dome, you can go through the luxury to get to the back of the train. I loved it. That was great. It was like, felt like I was in a Western movie, like out there on the railroad tracks, just watching them go by. So I thought that was really cool.
Now, the next thing to know about is the views, and that is probably the most disappointing thing about the Grand Canyon Railway is that, you know, we just paid for this luxury Sky Dome to be able to see views of the desert. You can see like some pinyon pines, like the juniper bushes. You see the road that drives next to the Grand Canyon Railway, which is another kind of bummer thing, is the Grand Canyon Railway doesn't take you anywhere that you can't drive your car. It's just right along the main road. And so the views are not anything to write home about on the Grand Canyon Railway. We've been on lots of other train rides where the views are like the reason for the train ride.
Yeah, now I will say this about the views though. I knew that there was no views of the Grand Canyon when we went. I knew the basic place where it traveled, and it's up on this plateau and all that. I will say this though, I really enjoyed it more than I thought I would because I love kind of the desert scenery and I love it. You did really feel remote. And there are some mountains out there, believe it or not, that are by the Grand Canyon called the San Francisco Mountains. So that was pretty cool. I loved seeing the pine trees and just the wide open flat desert. And so personally, I actually enjoyed it. Even though it wasn't views of the Grand Canyon, I liked it and I did think it was pretty unique.
Yes, and we actually have a whole write-up of our review of this Grand Canyon Railway on our website, we'reintherockies.com, and you can see maybe our differing opinions. But the other thing to know is that on our website, we have dozens of articles about how to visit the Grand Canyon. So if you're planning a trip out there, check it out because there's a lot of free resources for you on there.
Yep.
Now, as I mentioned before, I wasn't a big fan of the scenery, but I was a fan of the entertainment. This is by far the best entertainment I've ever had on a train ride of any of the ones we've done. It starts off where you catch the train. There's a little 20-minute cowboy show at like a little outside theater. There's some horses in it that's full of dad jokes and cowboys falling into manure, so it's pretty cheesy. But it's fun.
But funny, and everybody was laughing, and we enjoyed it, even though little dad humor cheesiness. Still enjoyed it. It was fun.
Oh yeah,
Family friendly.
No one was complaining about the show. It was fun. But then they have performers.
Yes, multiple performers that go from car to car and they're playing their guitar and singing tunes. I thought that was really, really nice. I mean, it really added to the whole experience of the ride. When you ride the train on the way back, those same ruffians that put on a show on the pre-show before you leave, they do come, maybe.
You might get robbed.
Yeah, you might come and they might hold the train.
There might be a train robbery. I don't know why the train pulls over to let the outlaws on, but those outlaws managed to get on that train.
It's like Butch Cassidy. They jumped on there and they held up the conductor. I'm sure you might get pulled over and experience that. That's pretty fun, and I think the kids really like that. And they actually push you. They push you around a little bit with they want your stuff.
Yeah, but they don't want your food. I tried to give them candy, and they said they don't take candy from strangers.
They weren't happy about that. No, they didn't want the candy.
All right. Next up is just like pricing and tickets. So as we mentioned, there's different classes of coach that you can get. Tickets start around $70 per person, but they can get up to $240 per person. So there's a pretty big range. And just hot tip from us, we don't think it's worth it to pay for the most expensive ticket. Like, we enjoyed our luxury Sky Dome experience, but we loved our coach experience too. We thought it was great.
All right, let's talk about staying and eating at the Grand Canyon Railway Hotel as part of this train ride. Okay, so there's packages that you can buy. So what we did is we purchased the one-night stay at the Railway Hotel. So we arrived the night before and we had dinner at the Fred Harvey restaurant. This is a buffet dinner, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But we had dinner there, and then we stayed at the Grand Canyon Railway Hotel. And then the next morning we ate breakfast again at the Fred Harvey restaurant, and then we did the whole train ride experience to the South Rim and back. Now, we didn't pay for 2 nights at the hotel. Maybe we should have, but we actually stayed at a much cheaper hotel in Williams on the second night to save some money. So that's how we did it. And so let's talk about each of those for a little bit.
Yes, and I wanted to mention that it was really nice to just have to bust out your credit card one time instead of paying multiple times for your hotel and the train and your meals. Like, you know, it was $600 for us when we did it last year to include all that Matt talked about. And like I said, we stayed on a nice train cart when we went. Now the hotel it looks like an old time hotel, but it was actually built in the 1980s or 90s. We appreciated that because even though it looked old and classic with a beautiful fireplace and fancy chandeliers and a nice lobby, we liked the hotel a lot. We would stay there again.
And then the restaurant. Let's talk about the Fred Harvey restaurant. So Fred Harvey was like the first chain restaurant owner in America. He built restaurants on every stop at the Santa Fe. There's multiple restaurants at the Grand Canyon South Rim called Fred Harvey Restaurant or the Harvey House Cafe. This is the Fred Harvey Restaurant, and it's a buffet style, and it's a really nice restaurant. And I loved how they have the little train going through, the little toy train going through the restaurant there. I liked that. The buffet seemed like a little bit of a letdown, but the food was good.
It was okay.
It was okay.
But they had some live music at night, and it was pretty cool to have the live music. They came out and they took requests, the guy that was singing. Next up is, what can you actually do at the rim when you go on the Grand Canyon Railway? Like we mentioned, 2.5 hour trip there and back. So you're 5 hours on the train. That gives you about 3.5 hours at the rim. But you can explore the village and see some viewpoints in that 3.5 hours. And that's exactly what a lot of people do. And so we just got our walking tour and we walked around and saw all the great things. It was just perfect. We got something to eat.
Found some really fun things throughout the village. The buildings of the village are really great. The architecture's awesome. It's a really charming little spot. Definitely you feel like you're in the history of the Grand Canyon there. All right, up next, let's talk about seasonal events. So as with most trains out there, they have seasonal events. We only have been during the summer, but they have the Polar Express during the winter months, which is a nice festive experience, of course, for families. And like I said, they do get snow there during the winter, so you need to be aware of that.
Next, we want to share our super ninja tips for riding the Grand Canyon Railway. And my first one is, if you book coach class, like we kind of like to do, it was saved us a lot of money. We thought it was a great experience. Try to sit as close to the front of the train as you can, because there is a snack car, and if there's several coach cars, and if you're in like one of the back ones, people are walking past you several times getting to that snack car. But if you're in the front, you're not having as much of that.
As we mentioned, try to avoid the Pullman car because there's no air conditioning there. So we would definitely pay the extra money to go up to the coach class. As far as going up to like the Sky Dome or the Parlor Dome, the Parlor cars that we rode on the way back, not a must do, but of course, your own budget, that might be worth it for you to have that extra space. Just remember that if you do the Sky Dome, you might want to compare the bottom to the top, because we actually enjoyed the bottom part more than the top, but you'll know what is best for you.
And lastly, if you are in one of those nicer train cars, make sure to take the time to go out to the very back of the train, enjoy the open air, and just see the tracks go below you. Last thing we want to talk about is who should ride the train and who shouldn't. We think that the Grand Canyon Railway is not a good option for you if you are wanting to see a sunset or sunrise, because it's not there during those times. You will completely miss that if that's your only trip to the Grand Canyon.
Although they do have an option to stay the night at the South Rim and to spend more time there at the South Rim and then ride back the next day. So that is an option there for you. And we would recommend it if this is like your only, experience or trip to the Grand Canyon. I would definitely recommend staying another night if possible so that you can do more around the South Rim and see it a little bit longer and see that sunrise or sunset before you come back. Also, don't ride if you're on a tight budget, of course. You can visit the Grand Canyon for a lot cheaper than riding the train. Or if you want to get a train ride with really special canyon views, just remember, this isn't the one for you. You're going to get flat desert views and pine trees on the way, which I liked. Cheryl didn't like so much, but just know that that's what you're getting.
Okay, but people who should ride it, for one, this could be really easy planning for you. Like if you just wanted to buy the whole package, you could just stay, get your food, take the train.
Take the shuttle around to different places, and they could kind of take care of you for your whole Grand Canyon experience.
Yeah, it makes things really, really easy. And I mean, you're getting a luxury historic experience. A couple other groups of people that might really enjoy the Grand Canyon Railway are just train enthusiasts. Every train is different. I loved how smooth this one was. And also, if you're just into fun entertainment, this was entertaining. They did a great job. I've never seen a train do such a good job on the entertainment. And so I think if you're one of these people, the Grand Canyon Railway is for you.
Okay, listen, if you're visiting the Grand Canyon, there's a lot more you need to know about what to do at the Grand Canyon and how to do it. So we have made a whole trip planner video for you. Click the icon on your screen to watch that next. Thank you so much for joining us on our Grand Canyon Railway experience. Have a good one.